Boxing history was made when Terence "Bud" Crawford moved up to super middleweight and dethroned Canelo Alvarez to become undisputed in his third weight class, something no male fighter in history has ever accomplished. But the question remains, did the judges get it right, or did we just witness one of the most shocking decisions in recent memory? In this video, I'm breaking down Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford punch by punch, round by round, using my proven scoring algorithm to find out who really won this historic showdown. The results may surprise you. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications right now so you never miss a breakdown of the fights that define boxing history. And stick around until the end to see whether my algorithm agrees with the official scorecards or not. Let's get right into it. Round 1. Clean punching. Terence Crawford barely outpoints Canelo Alvarez 4 clean punches to 3 in round 1 of their historic fight. Clean punching, 10-9, Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. Both Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez were only aggressive in spots, and both were effective in making the other defend that aggression, but neither culminated in a lasting effect throughout the round that made the other fighter change his approach. Crawford cut off the ring much better than Canelo did, though. Effective aggression, 9 points to both fighters. Ring generalship. Terence Crawford controlled action and tone. He made Canelo nearly miss several times. Terence Crawford cut off the ring very well, limiting Canelo Alvarez's options, whereas Crawford was able to move wherever he wanted when Canelo tried to cut off the ring. Bud Crawford got positive results both when he initiated and avoided action, whereas Canelo's results did not seem to match his intent as much. Ring generalship, Terence Crawford 10, Canelo Alvarez 8.5. Let's talk defense, and here are all the moves done in this round to avoid punches, and if we categorize them, we get high guard for Terence Crawford, ducking 7 points to both fighters, bobbing and weaving for Canelo, parrying Terence Crawford, blocking 8 points to both fighters, footwork Canelo, and clinching 7 points to both fighters. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.362 points to Terence Crawford and 8.740 points to Canelo Alvarez. Round 1 is 10-9, Terence Crawford. And as we go through this fight, I will compare my running score to that of the 3 judges at ringside. They are Tim Cheatham, Max DeLuca, and Steve Weisfeld, who lives here in New Jersey where I do. Maybe I'll run into you one day, Steve, and I can pick your brain on these things. Round 2. Clean punching. In this round, Terence Crawford outlands Canelo Alvarez 9 clean landed punches to 3, triple the punches. And now the cumulative total in the fight, 13 for Terence Crawford, 6 for Canelo Alvarez. Clean punching, 10-7 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. Canelo Alvarez was the effective aggressor, cutting off the ring successfully a few times and even landing that left hook to the body that he does when fighters try to escape along the ropes to his left. Terence Crawford landed 3 times as many punches, but did almost all his work going backward. Effective aggression, 10-9 Canelo Alvarez. Ring generalship. Terence Crawford used feints and constantly moving hands and feet to keep Canelo guessing and therefore controlled action and tone. Canelo couldn't attack every time he wanted to, and did already look hesitant about what might come back at him. Gotta hand it to him though, after so many fights, Canelo still defends like the Triple G1 days of old. Ring generalship, 10-9 Terence Crawford. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in this round and when they happen to avoid punches. If we categorize them, I gave high guard to Canelo, ducking to Canelo, bobbing and weaving to Canelo, parrying to Canelo, blocking to Terence Crawford, footwork to Canelo, and clinching 7 points to both fighters. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.333 points to Terence Crawford and 8.638 points to Canelo Alvarez, normalizing to the 10-point must system, 10-9 Terence Crawford. And I now have the fight 20-18 Terence Crawford. All 3 judges at ringside gave that round to Canelo Alvarez. I can't figure out why, but Tim Cheatham has the fight a draw 1919, as does Steve Weisfeld. Judge Max DeLuca now has it 2018 for Canelo. Round 3. Clean punching. A big disparity in this round. Terence Crawford lands 11 clean punches to Canelo Alvarez's 3. Cumulative total in the fight so far, 24 for Crawford, 9 for Canelo Alvarez. Clean punching, 10-7 again, Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. With 35 seconds on the clock, Canelo had a left hook to the back. I give a soft warning. Terence Crawford was only aggressive at the beginning of the round and then switched to luring Canelo in for counterpunch opportunities. He was definitely effective in the couple aggressive moments though. Canelo Alvarez was more aggressive, moving forward more, cutting off the ring and throwing hard hooks, but Bud Crawford made him miss a lot, so Canelo was not very effective. Effective aggression, Canelo Alvarez 9.5, Terence Crawford 9. Ring generalship. Terence Crawford controlled action and tone. He drew Canelo in, landed 3 times as many punches, and then made him hesitate for most of the round, only throwing a handful of good shots. Ring generalship, 10 points for Crawford, 8.5 for Canelo Alvarez. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done to avoid punches and when they happened in this round. If we categorize them, I gave the high guard to Canelo Alvarez, ducking to Canelo Alvarez, bobbing and weaving to Canelo Alvarez, Alvarez, parrying 8 points to both fighters, blocking to Terence Crawford, footwork to Terence Crawford, and clinching 7 points to both fighters. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.362 points to Terence Crawford and 8.274 points to Canelo Alvarez. Round 3 is a blowout victory, 10-9 for Terence Crawford. And I now have the fight 30-27 Terence Crawford. Judges Tim Cheatham and Max DeLuca both gave that round to Terence Crawford. Judge Cheatham has it 29-28 Crawford, and Judge DeLuca has it 29-28 Alvarez. And then Judge Steve Weisfeld gave that round to Canelo Alvarez and has the fight 29-28 Canelo Alvarez. Round 4, clean punching. In this round, Terence Crawford again outlands Canelo Alvarez, this time 13-9. Cumulative punches in the fight are 37 for Crawford, 18 for Alvarez. Clean punching, 10-9 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. Canelo with a left hook to the back, I'd give a hard warning. At 114, Canelo with a hook to the thigh, I'd give a soft warning for that. At 106, Canelo another left hook to the back. Last hard warning for you, Canelo. At 58 seconds, another left hook to the back. I'm taking a point deduction now. This is too much. Canelo Alvarez was aggressive for more of the round and was effective for much of the round too, although even when he cut off the ring, Terence Crawford just moved laterally within the smaller space and still wasn't caught very often. Terence Crawford was aggressive for the first 30 seconds and then in a spot late in the round. Effective aggression, Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez both 9.5 points. Ring generalship. How do we explain the fact that Canelo didn't land that many punches, yet Terence Crawford didn't perform that many defensive moves to avoid punches? It's called ring generalship. Terence Crawford controlled so much action and tone that he was often not in range long enough for Canelo to think quickly enough to launch an attack, so there was nothing to defend. Canelo Alvarez did land his best punches so far in this round, but just because he had a comeback and wasn't outlanded by 3 times doesn't mean he still wasn't outlanded. Ring generalship, 10 points Terence Crawford, 8.5 Canelo Alvarez. And here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches and when they happened, and if we categorize them, I gave high guard 10-9 to Canelo, ducking to Canelo, bobbing and weaving 9 points to both fighters, parrying to Canelo, blocking to Canelo, footwork 8 points to both fighters, and clinching 7 points to both fighters. Overall, a much more well-rounded defensive round for Canelo Alvarez. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.409 points to Terence Crawford and 8.960 points to Canelo Alvarez, normalizing to the 10-point must system, and then deducting that 1 point for all the fouls, 10-8 Terence Crawford. And I now have the fight 40-35 Terence Crawford. All 3 judges at ringside gave that round to Terence Crawford. Judge Tim Cheatham now has it 39-37 Crawford, and judges Max DeLuca and Steve Weisfeld have it 38-38, a draw. Round 5, clean punching. Again, Terence Crawford outlands Canelo Alvarez, and this time it's 6-1. 6 isn't very many landed punches, but it is when you're comparing to 1. Clean punching, 10-7 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. At 140, a rabbit punch by Canelo. Maybe he should stop throwing hooks. I give a soft warning for that one, because it's a different type of foul. Terence Crawford was effectively aggressive, but he wasn't aggressive for much more than half the round because he kept switching up styles. But Crawford kept Canelo Alvarez from being able to set his mind on an attack by moving forward and pawing with the jab, beating him to an aggressive punch, or simply not being there. Canelo seemed to give up being aggressive at times because it wasn't effective. Even the one landed punch I gave him was an educated guess because the camera angle was tough. Effective aggression, Terence Crawford 9.5, Canelo Alvarez 8.5. Ring generalship. Terence Crawford controlled action and tone for almost the entire round. In fact, I would struggle to tell you what tone Canelo was trying to set because he wasn't. He was reacting to Crawford the whole time. Canelo ended up in Terence Crawford's front face lock at one point and stood up carrying Terence Crawford on his neck and shoulder. Unfortunately, this show of strength was one of the only positive things he did in the round, and it isn't a scoreable move. Ring generalship, Terence Crawford 10, Canelo Alvarez 8.5. And here are all the defensive moves done to avoid punches in this round, and if we categorize them, I gave high guard to Canelo Alvarez, ducking to Canelo, bobbing and weaving 9 points to both fighters, parrying 9 points to both fighters, blocking to Terence Crawford, footwork 9 points to both fighters, and clinching 7 points to both fighters. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.552 points to Terence Crawford and 8.093 points to Canelo Alvarez, a 10-9 blowout round for Terence Crawford. And I now have the fight 50-44 Terence Crawford. Judges Tim Cheatham and Max DeLuca gave that round to Canelo Alvarez somehow, which I find very hard to understand. Judge Cheatham has the fight 48-47 Terence Crawford, and Max DeLuca has it 48-47 Canelo Alvarez. Judge Steve Weisfeld correctly gave that round to Terence Crawford and has the fight 48-47 Terence Crawford. Round 6, clean punching. Again, Terence Crawford outlands Canelo Alvarez. This time it's 12-6, and the cumulative punches landed in the fight so far: Crawford 55, Canelo 25. Clean punching, 10-8 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. Canelo Alvarez was the more effective aggressor in this round as he pressed forward, chased Crawford, and landed some good punches, although Terence Crawford did make him miss quite a bit, as Crawford himself wasn't very aggressive at all and boxed in this round except the one time he clinched Canelo all the way back into the corner. Effective aggression, 10-8 Canelo Alvarez. Ring generalship. Terence Crawford has done this a few times now, and again at 141 here. He backs into a corner, but Canelo Alvarez still can't hit him, and then he moves away. Canelo seems labored, and Bud Crawford seems so calm and composed. Terence Crawford controlled action, but Canelo Alvarez controlled tone, making Crawford have to deal with his pressure, which he did well, but it was reactive. Ring generalship, 9.5 points to both fighters. And here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, I gave the high guard to Canelo Alvarez, ducking 8 points to both fighters, bobbing and weaving to Canelo, parrying to Canelo, blocking to Canelo, footwork 9 points to both fighters, and clinching to Terence Crawford. If we take the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 8.950 points to Terence Crawford and 8.998 points to Canelo Alvarez. I gave this one a razor-thin margin of victory, 10-9, to Canelo Alvarez in round 6, his first round that he won on my scorecard. So I now have the fight 59-54 in favor of Terence Crawford. Judges Tim Cheatham, Max DeLuca, and Steve Weisfeld all gave that round to Terence Crawford. Judge Cheatham has it 58-56 Crawford. Judge DeLuca has it 57-57 a draw. And Judge Steve Weisfeld has it 58-56 Terence Crawford. Round 7, clean punching. In this round, Terence Crawford outlands Canelo Alvarez 18 clean punches to 4. The running total now, 73 total punches landed for Terence Crawford and 29 for Canelo Alvarez. Clean punching, 10-7 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression, at 2:33, a left hook to the back by Canelo again, and Crawford was not moving in any way that would have made this happen. I probably should take another point, but a hard warning. At 42 seconds, another one, but Terence Crawford was turning into this one, so I'll let it slide. Canelo with an elbow to the head, that looked accidental, but I'm starting to see a pattern and may need to deduct again soon. Canelo Alvarez was more aggressive, but even his illegal blows weren't effective. Terence Crawford again was only aggressive at the beginning of the round and then switched approaches to negate Canelo Alvarez's aggressive effectiveness rather than initiating his own. Effective aggression, Terence Crawford 9, Canelo Alvarez also 9. Ring generalship. Terence Crawford used small steps to be just out of reach, and even when Canelo Alvarez got off punches, they were mostly blocked, as he said in the post-fight interview. I think the untrained eye sees Canelo throw a hard, enthusiastic shot every once in a while and assumes it landed. Bud Crawford also used a busy jab and timed movement to seldom give Canelo opportunities to get set to do anything. Canelo is following Crawford around at Crawford's pace and tone and simply not finding him. Ring generalship, Terence Crawford 10, Canelo Alvarez 8.5. And here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, we give the high guard to Canelo Alvarez, ducking to Canelo, bobbing and weaving to Canelo, parrying to Canelo, blocking to Terence Crawford, footwork to Terence Crawford, and clinching to Canelo. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.390 points to Terence Crawford and 8.226 points to Canelo Alvarez. Another blowout round, 10-9 for Terence Crawford in round 7. And I now have the fight 69-63 Terence Crawford. Judges Max DeLuca and Judge Steve Weisfeld correctly gave that round to Terence Crawford. Judge DeLuca has it 67-66 Crawford, and Judge Weisfeld has it 68-65 Crawford. And Tim Cheatham, don't cheat him, he gave this round to Canelo Alvarez 10-9 and has the fight 67-66 Crawford. Apparently you can be outlanded by 4 times and be totally controlled and still win a round. Round 8, clean punches. Terence Crawford outlands Canelo Alvarez again, this time 11-8. The running total 84 for Terence Crawford, 37 for Canelo Alvarez. Clean punching, 10-9 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. Canelo does the coolie dance when Crawford is going for a hook to the body at 225. Canelo Alvarez came alive in this round and was easily the more effective aggressor. He stormed forward, punched hard, although he was outlanded, cut the ring off well, clinched hard when he needed, and was not deterred very much by Terence Crawford's offense. Effective aggression, Canelo Alvarez 10 points, Terence Crawford 8.5. Ring generalship. Canelo Alvarez really pushed the pace in this round and controlled a more aggressive tone. Bud Crawford wasn't hit that much, but he was certainly being made to be reactive to Canelo's pace and tone in this round. Canelo Alvarez seemed incredulous at his inability to land more by the end of the round, but he still controlled these things well. Ring generalship, Canelo Alvarez 10, Terence Crawford 8.5. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done to avoid punches in this round and when they happened. If we categorize them, I gave the high guard to Canelo, ducking 8 points to both fighters, bobbing and weaving to Canelo, parrying 7 points to both fighters, blocking to Terence Crawford, footwork 8 points to both fighters, and clinching to Canelo Alvarez. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 8.821 points to Terence Crawford and 9.357 points to Canelo Alvarez. The second round won in this fight by Canelo Alvarez is round 8, 10-9. And I now have the fight 78-73 in favor of Terence Crawford. All three judges at ringside gave this round to Canelo Alvarez as they should have. Judge Tim Cheatham has it 76-76 a draw, as does Judge Max DeLuca, and Judge Steve Weisfeld now has it 77-75 Terence Crawford. Round 9, clean punching. In this round, Terence Crawford again outlands Canelo Alvarez. This time it's 18-10. At least Canelo's getting into double digits now. The running total, 102 clean landed punches by Terence Crawford, 47 by Canelo Alvarez. Clean punching, 10-9 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. At 248, Canelo another left hook to the back, but it wasn't hard. Am I being too nice by not deducting for this? Next time I will, for sure. At 247, again, minus 1 point now. At 246, he tried a right hook to the back on the other side, but was blocked by Crawford. At 242, Canelo with another left hook to the back. Look at the image. He's standing almost side by side with Terence Crawford like they're in a three-legged race when throwing this. It has to be intentional. Minus another point. Control yourself, hombre. At 229, another left hook to the back and possibly also low on the butt by Canelo. Minus 3 points in this round. I think he no longer wants to be here and is looking for a way out. At 227, a clash of heads. In 10% slow-mo, both heads were moving toward each other. Canelo apologized, although his head was looking down, so I don't think it was intentional. Classy move, though, as this headbutt was discussed a lot online after the fight. At 136, Terence Crawford hit a ducking Canelo on the back of the head. That was unintentional. First 25 seconds of the round, both were aggressive, but Crawford was more effective. After that, Canelo was certainly more aggressive and quite effective in the middle of the round, but became less effective as Crawford stayed away more. Whew! After all that, effective aggression, 9.5 Canelo Alvarez, 9 points Terence Crawford. Ring generalship. Canelo's breathing heavily near the end of the round, but he isn't exerting himself that much. It must be exasperation and mental fatigue from constantly having to reset and get his energy ready to go and then have no one there to throw at. The graphic on the screen seems crazy to me, saying Canelo has landed 2 times as many punches as I've actually seen land. Are they counting all those illegal shots? Canelo Alvarez pressed the pace and tone for much of the round, but Crawford had to work harder to defend and eventually just stayed away for the last 30 seconds after pot-shotting earlier. Canelo pressed action and tone, but also couldn't get off for much of the round. Ring generalship, Canelo, 9.5, Terence Crawford, 9 points. And here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, I gave the high guard to Canelo Alvarez, ducking to Canelo Alvarez, bobbing and weaving to Canelo Alvarez, parrying 8 points to both fighters, blocking to Terence Crawford, footwork to Terence Crawford, and clinching 7 points to both fighters. If we take the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave a razor-thin 9.186 points to Terence Crawford to 9.164 points to Canelo Alvarez, a very, very thin margin of victory, but it's for Terence Crawford in round 9. And then we take the 3 points that I deducted for all of those fouls, 10-6 Terence Crawford. So I now have the fight very wide, 88-79 in favor of Terence Crawford. Judge Tim Cheatham gave that round to Terence Crawford and has it 86-85 Crawford. Judge Max DeLuca gave that round to Canelo Alvarez and has the fight 86-85 Canelo. And Judge Steve Weisfeld gave that round to Terence Crawford and has it 87-84 Terence Crawford. Round 10, clean punching. Again, Terence Crawford outlands Canelo. This time it's 14-5. The running total, 116 clean landed punches for Terence Crawford to 52 for Canelo Alvarez. Clean punching, 10-8 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. At 140, Canelo with a left hook to the back again, but this time Terence Crawford twisted. Another at 37 seconds looked suspicious, but I couldn't see it land or else I would have disqualified him at this point. Terence Crawford fought more toe-to-toe in the first minute, but not after that. Canelo Alvarez was easily the more consistent, effective aggressor, stalking, cutting off the ring well at times, and throwing hard punches. He was just outlanded badly by the much less aggressive Bud Crawford. Effective aggression, 10-9, Canelo Alvarez. Ring generalship. Canelo Alvarez controlled action and tone by pushing a hard, determined pace and really going after Terence Crawford, who used elusiveness and defense to land so many more punches within the pace and tone that Canelo was controlling. Ring generalship, 10-9, Canelo Alvarez. And here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches, and if we categorize them, I gave the high guard to Canelo, ducking to Terence Crawford, bobbing and weaving 9 points to both fighters, parrying 7 points to both fighters, blocking to Canelo, footwork 8 points to both fighters, and clinching to Bud Crawford. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.157 points to Terence Crawford and 9.086 points to Canelo Alvarez. Another razor-thin round here, this one 10-9 for Terence Crawford. And I now have the fight 98-88 Terence Crawford. Judge Tim Cheatham gave that round to Canelo Alvarez and has the fight 95-95 a draw. Judge Max DeLuca gave the round to Terence Crawford and also has it 95-95 a draw. And Judge Steve Weisfeld gave that round to Canelo Alvarez and has the fight 96-94 Terence Crawford. Round 11, clean punching. In this round, Terence Crawford again outlands Canelo Alvarez 20 clean punches to 12. He gets over the 20 barrier. 136 total punches landed in the fight so far for Terence Crawford to 64 for Canelo Alvarez. Clean punching, 10-9 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. At 244, a left hook to the back. This one looks inadvertent, though, as Crawford was twisting. Both Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez were effectively aggressive and fun to watch in the first half of the round. Then Bud Crawford used distance control to mostly avoid aggression and keep Canelo from implementing his in the second half, resulting in the two frustrating moments that you've heard about online. Effective aggression, Canelo 9.5, Terence Crawford also 9.5. Ring generalship. Here's the image of Canelo being, quote, totally frustrated by getting hit with a Terence Crawford jab that is being talked about a lot online. Regarding this round, I personally didn't think this or the headbutt earlier in the fight were a big deal. Canelo was likely frustrated for 2 to 3 seconds by this jab because he was doing quite well up until this point in the round. I don't get why no one is talking about all the punches to Crawford's back in the previous rounds, though. There were so many of them, and no points were deducted in any rounds. I get it now. Canelo Alvarez walks around frustrated again a few seconds later after being pawed to the high guard and then hit with a straight left to the body. It's becoming a pattern of wheels coming off behavior now, which is why so many people are talking about it. It wasn't just one instance, it's Canelo being demoralized. Both fighters controlled pace and tone going toe-to-toe in the first half of the round. Then Terence Crawford controlled the second half by staying away and pot-shotting. Ring generalship, 10-9 Terence Crawford. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in round 11 to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, we give the high guard to Canelo Alvarez, ducking 9 points to both fighters, bobbing and weaving to Canelo Alvarez, parrying to Canelo Alvarez, blocking to Terence Crawford, footwork to Canelo Alvarez, and clinching 8 points to both fighters. If we take the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.495 points to Terence Crawford and 9.105 points to Canelo Alvarez, a 10-9 victory in round 11 for Terence Crawford. And I now have the fight 108 to 97 Terence Crawford after all those deductions and all those rounds Terence Crawford won. All 3 judges at ringside gave that round to Terence Crawford. Judges Tim Cheatham and Max DeLuca now have the fight 105-104 Terence Crawford, and Judge Steve Weisfeld has it 106-103 Terence Crawford. And here's that graphic I was talking about earlier that they had on the screen of Canelo landing 108 punches and Crawford landing 138. That's actually about double the number of punches that Canelo's actually landed in this fight. They're off by maybe 4 with Crawford close enough. Round 12, the final round of this undisputed championship fight of the decade. Clean punching. And Terence Crawford puts a punctuation mark on this fight, outlanding Canelo Alvarez 23 clean-landed punches to 5 in the final round. Running total 159 clean-landed punches for Crawford, 69 for Canelo Alvarez. Clean punching, 10-7 Terence Crawford. Effective aggression. The screen graphic was super confusing in this round as it said round 11 of 12 for a moment, then disappeared for another moment with no clock, and then came back and said round 12. So you don't know how many times I've done this part of the video over and over again because I was totally confused. Anyway, at 132, Canelo with a jab to the thigh, which is a low blow. I'd give a hard warning for that. Both Terence Bud Crawford and Saul Canelo Alvarez were effectively aggressive in the first half of the round. Then Terence Crawford started landing a few shots that seemed to startle Canelo Alvarez with how hard and well-timed they were. Terence Crawford only seems to be aggressive long enough in these rounds to discourage Canelo from being aggressive himself, and then Crawford goes to the movement approach with timed precision flurries. They went back and forth with lower aggression for about 45 seconds, and then Bud Crawford really poured it on in the last 45 seconds, and especially at the end of the round. Effective aggression, 10-9, Terence Crawford. Ring generalship. Terence Bud Crawford is the kryptonite that has turned Canelo into a mere Saul. The round started off competitively. There was an exchange of defensive wizardry by both fighters around 132 that made them both smile. But after that, Terence Bud Crawford controlled action and tone by a landslide, landing nearly 5 times as many punches as Canelo Alvarez in this round, and relegating Canelo to visibly looking for the way out, or perhaps to see if the clock was running down. An incredibly strong finishing punctuation mark in a landslide 12th round for Terence Crawford, who almost couldn't miss a shot at the end of the round. Ring generalship, 10 points Terence Crawford, 8.5 Canelo Alvarez. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in this final round to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, high guard is 10-9 Canelo Alvarez, ducking 9 points to both fighters, bobbing and weaving to Canelo Alvarez, parrying 7 points to both fighters, blocking to Terence Crawford, footwork to Terence Crawford, and clinching 7 points to both fighters. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.714 points to Terence Crawford and 8.198 points to Canelo Alvarez, a landslide 10-9 round in round 12, the final round, to Terence Crawford. And now the time has come, the time you've all been waiting for, the time that we discover who really won the undisputed super middleweight title showdown between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. And the answer is, Terence Crawford blew him away on my card, 118 to 106. And you may say, hey, you're being a little tough with all the deductions. If I didn't have any of those deductions, which by the way, all happened in rounds that Crawford would have won anyway, my score would have been 118-110, still a landslide for Terence Crawford. So that begs the question, how close were some of these rounds? Could some of them go the other way? Well, round 1 was comfortable for Crawford. Round 2 was comfortable for Crawford. Round 3 was a landslide for Crawford. Round 4 was comfortable for Crawford. Round 5 was a landslide for Crawford. Round 6 was razor thin, but for Canelo, so he can't gain any more points there. Round 7 was a landslide for Crawford. Round 8 was comfortable for Canelo. Round 9 was razor thin for Crawford, so there's one candidate that could go the other way. Round 10 was also razor thin for Crawford, so there's another candidate. Round 11 was comfortable for Crawford, and round 12 was a landslide for Crawford. So if we overturn those 2 rounds and take away all of the deductions that I made, we would end up with a very best case scenario for Saul Canelo Alvarez in this fight of 116-112 Terence Crawford. Although I stand by my original 118-106, there was a whole lot of fouling going on by Canelo Alvarez in this fight. So let's have a look at what the 3 judges at ringside had to say about this. Well, all 3 judges at ringside gave that final round to Terence Crawford. Judge Tim Cheatham had it 115-113, Judge Max DeLuca also 115-113, and Judge Steve Weisfeld 116-112. They all had the right winner, just not wide enough. And a few interesting statistics at the bottom of the screen here. The maximum number of punches landed in any round by Terence Crawford, 23, Canelo 12. The minimum number of punches landed in any round by Terence Crawford, 4, Canelo 1. Average number of punches per round, 13 for Crawford, 6 for Canelo Alvarez. And again, the total punches landed 159 for Terence Crawford to 69 for Canelo Alvarez. And now you know who really won Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Bud Crawford for the undisputed super middleweight championship of the world. And there you have it, my full round-by-round scoring breakdown of Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, the fight that crowned Crawford an undisputed in a 3rd weight class. Whether you agree with the judges or not, one thing is clear. This was a night that changed boxing history. Now it's your turn. Drop your scorecard in the comments and let's see if you had it for Canelo, Crawford, or maybe a draw. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button. Subscribe right now for more fight analysis breakdowns and my Who Really Won series. We're just getting started. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss the biggest debates in boxing history. Until next time, keep scoring fair, keep questioning the judges, and keep the conversation alive.